So I've got a passage from the sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 48, Kosambi Sutta, is the end of it, the last few paragraphs. I thought it was quite a nice description of the understanding of the Sotapanna. So I thought it might be something that you could talk about. So it's after the bit where the Buddha's talking about what leads to friendliness, cordiality in bhikkhus, in Sangha, and he says these 6 things lead to, if engaging in these 6 things, the Sangha will be harmonious, unity, living in concord. And the last one is having the right view, sharing the right view. And he says that's the peak, that's the most...
That's the fundamental
one. The fundamental one, yeah. Everything else is sort of secondary to that. So then he says, and how, bhikkhus, does this view, which is noble, lead whoever acts on this, on towards the correct destruction of suffering? Here, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu gone to the forest, or gone to the root of a tree, or gone to an empty dwelling, reflects thus: is there any internal obsession unabandoned by me, because of which, with this obsession, I can't understand, I can't see the essence of the obsessed mind? If bhikkhus, a bhikkhu is obsessed by the passion of sense desire, there's just an obsessed mind. If bhikkhus, a bhikkhu is obsessed by ill will, there is just an obsessed mind. If a bhikkhu is obsessed by sloth and torpor, or tiredness and sluggishness, there is just an obsessed mind. If he's obsessed by agitation and remorse, it's just an obsessed mind. If he's obsessed by doubt, there's just an obsessed mind. If a bhikkhu is engaged in thoughts about this world, it's just an obsessed mind. If a bhikkhu is engaged in thoughts about another world, it's just an obsessed mind. If a bhikkhu is involved in quarrels, disputes, having fallen into an argument, dwells stabbing others with verbal daggers, there is just an obsessed mind. He understands in this way: there isn't any internal obsession unabandoned by me, because of which with this obsession, I can't understand, I can't see the essence of the obsessed mind. My mind is well directed for the awakening of the truths. For him, this first knowledge is attained, which is noble, world transcendent, not shared by Pathogenous. That's the first one.
So what do all those things have in common?
Things as in the obsessions?
Yeah,
or the
doubt is an obsession, ill will is an obsession, shout is an obsession, thinking about this world is an obsession, the other world is an obsession.
Yeah, it's all mind.
It's all mind, exactly. Yeah. So it's not, and that's really, so it says there clearly, it's not that he chases down and analyzes doubt, chases down and analyzes sensuality.
Yeah.
No, he just knows this results in obsession of the mind. So obsession is there. He knows obsession as obsession being there, which means understanding of the nature of the mind, nature of it, not the content of it.
Yeah.
Not the experience of it. Why this special experience, this out of this world experience, not out of this world experience of free from lust, with lust, all of that is secondary to the mind being first, in that sense.
Yeah,
so understanding the nature of that mind means surmounting anything that can obsess that mind.
Yeah. So he talks there about these different obsessions, but the point is that for each one, this is just an example of obsessed mind. It's what they have in common that's the most important thing.
That's the thing, exactly. You stop trying to discern and analyze the content.
Yeah.
You just see it as an example of the nature that you behind it that you want to discern.
Yeah. And so only then will you be able to answer for yourself that right now there is an obsessed mind.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you wouldn't know. If you don't know what an obsessed
mind is. Well, otherwise
it's
not up to you. If your obsessed mind is determined by presence of greed, aversion, delusion, or thoughts of this world, it means you will be affected when those things are there. But if you develop your mind so when obsession of when ill will is present, mind is not obsessed by it. So ill will is still there, the content is still the same, but the mind is now not obsessed.
Because you've understood that whether there's an obsessed mind or an unobsessed mind,
because basically you refrain from entertaining the further obsession towards the content, and you forced yourself to look for the nature of it. So you stop chasing down the individual experiences and start understanding them universally. That's the whole point. Because obsession does not, it requires maintenance, it requires your involvement. So it requires you to choose basically to feed it.
Right.
And that's like when people know, like you know that, or at least you have the idea that suffering is caused by craving, not by adverse circumstances you experience in the world. But when you experience the adverse, like say somebody comes and says something upsetting to you, so you know that on a theoretical level, you suffer because of your craving, not because of what they said. But on practical level, you can't restrain yourself, and you still go after that person or whatever. You cannot help yourself but be obsessed about the content that upset you. And then same when you meet agreeable experience. The prospect of sensuality, the excitement, you are not developed in regard to it, you cannot help but be obsessed. So you choose to give in to obsessions that present themselves, which means you choose to feed them. And that's why like we in so many talks, like sense restraint is not optional. You want to be a Sotapanna, you need to develop that sense restraint to the point that you are able to see the nature of whatever's presently in front of you in terms of the content of your experience, and not be obsessed by it, and not go after it, and not be pulled by saying yes or repelled by saying no.
So sense restraint, another way of sort of describing sense restraint would be refusing, not acting
out of obsession.
Out of obsessed mind,
Good obsession or bad obsession, doesn't matter. Obsession is there.
And in order to do that,
so the sense restraint outlines your mind, which then gets you to discern what obsession actually is.
That's what I was going to say. It seems to be like you're talking about chitta nimitta, seeing
the sign of the mind. That's the necessary, as the Buddha said, prerequisite for sotapatti, for the right view, is to develop sign of your mind.
See the mind.
Which means able to like transcend the presently enduring content that's pulling you, pushing you, upsetting you, obsessing you, and you still see beyond it in terms of the mind that endures there simultaneously.
Which is what all of these different types of mind have in common.
Exactly.
Where am I up to? So that's like, it just seems to be that's one knowledge that it says like a Sotapanna can ask himself. He ponders, he thinks, okay, am I aware of the presence of obsessed mind or non-obsessed mind?
Exactly, and that's how by being unable to be obsessed, even amidst obsessing circumstances, obsessing content, that's how you become unable to suffer, even amid suffering, as the Buddha said, which begins with Sotapanna. So you ask yourself, am I free from suffering in that sense? Would I not suffer even while I'm experiencing that which is suffering, that which is disagreeable? Would my mind remain unobsessed by it? Or would I fear it? Would I incline away from it? Would I try to shelter myself? Would I try to protect myself? All of those attitudes still imply that you think suffering is there, so you're protecting yourself from it.
Exactly, I don't think a practitioner wouldn't be able to conceive of that question being asked.
Well, if transparent practitioner probably could. The one that's not avoiding responsibility or mystifying the content of his experience. And that's the whole point. Doesn't matter, like as I said, this doesn't only refer to things that are unpleasant in their nature that obsess your mind. It refers to things that are pleasant. Chasing novelty experience, chasing those meditation releases, all of that is focused on the content of it.
Yeah.
means you're completely unaware of the nature. Unaware of the nature means unaware of the mind.
Yeah.
Unaware of the mind, there is no prerequisite for the right view.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how special your experience might be.
Mhm.
So that's what I was saying before, like that whole, like overly affirming or overly denying attitude towards the content of your experience.
Mhm.
And same when we mention in our talks when people have mystical experience, and it's not the experience that's mystical, it's their attitude that mystifies it.
Mhm.
Any experience is just an experience, just the content of the senses
Mhm.
or the mind as well.
Yeah.
But it's your attitude whether mystifies, whether glorifies and values the content in itself.
Right.
That's why it's mystical, that's why it's a wrong view.
Yeah.
Not what you but for as long as you value what you experience or what you want or what you might, to that extent you value the view of the content of your
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
not the nature of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what you experience.
Yeah.
What matters is whether the mind is obsessed by it or not.
And you can only not be obsessed by it or affected by it
By seeing the nature.
by seeing the nature.
Yeah. Not by learning how to deal with content perfectly.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Mm.
So even if you don't want to be free from suffering, you will be free from suffering, because that's the automatic result
Mm.
of seeing the nature of things.
Right.
You cannot suffer, because suffering requires an
Yeah.
obsession.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need to then do something.
Yeah.
Furthermore, bhikkhus, a noble disciple reflects thus. It's funny that in the previous one he just said a bhikkhu.
Mm.
Here, bhikkhus a bhikkhu gone to the forest. But now the rest of these knowledges are all about a noble disciple. He reflects thus. Pursuing, developing, making much of this view, do I gain calm, samatha, for myself?
Mm.
Do I gain extinguishment of myself?
Mm.
He understands in this way, pursuing, developing, making much of this view, I gain calm for myself, I gain extinguishment of myself, nibhuti.
Yeah.
For
So you
him,
just
this second knowledge is-
further verify exactly what you already know.
Uh-huh.
You already know that this view, this way of regarding things, frees you from obsessions, which implies inability to suffer.
Mm.
So if I pursue that view, then the further calm comes out of it, and then the further extinguishment of anything else,
Mhm.
in terms of views and habits that were rooted upon greed, aversion, and delusion.
Mhm. That's the second knowledge. And then, furthermore, a noble disciple reflects thus. Just as I am endowed with this view, are there any other ascetics and or Brahmins outside here endowed with such a view? He understands in this way.
No.
Just as I am endowed with this view, there aren't any other ascetics and Brahmins outside here endowed with this view.
Yeah. The only way to arrive at that view is to understand it correctly,
Mhm.
which is only found within the Buddha's instruction.
Yeah.
It's impossible, and see what that says? Well, what that implies is it's impossible to stumble upon it spontaneously
Yeah.
or accidentally.
Yeah.
So even when before the Buddha, like Pacceka Buddhas, even they don't stumble upon it spontaneously. They recognize the value of that development, they pursue it, and they free their mind in the same sense that Sammasambuddha did.
Yeah.
So that's another clear indication of why you should not be chasing your experiences, even of a spiritual nature,
Because they're just random.
because they happen to you.
Yeah.
Understanding doesn't happen to you. You develop it in regard to things that happen to you.
Mhm.
But for as long as you value things happening to you, you will not be understanding it. It's mutually exclusive. You're either in the content, or you're refraining from valuing the content and looking at the nature of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Furthermore, a noble disciple reflects thus. Just as an individual who has attained the right view is endowed with a nature,
Mm.
or usually it's like with a character,
Mm.
with a he has a particular nature. Am I endowed with such a nature? In what way, bhikkhu, an individual who has attained the right view endowed with such a nature? This is the nature of an individual who has attained the right view. Even though such a one falls into an offence, such that the rehabilitation from that offence is known, Still he quickly indicates, discloses, clarifies to a teacher or to his wise companions in the holy life. Having indicated, disclosed, clarified, he undergoes restraint in the future.
And what does that mean? That means that the utmost personal things, personal wrongdoings, cannot be taken as personally anymore.
Okay, yeah.
He discloses it. The only reason people don't disclose things is because of the involvement of their conceit.
Frightened of...
Yeah, whatever. Fear or whatever, but it's all rooted in sense of I am in regard to it. Self-view. Self-worth that comes out of the self-view.
Yeah.
And for somebody with the right view, he's incapable of taking it personally. Even things that resulted, like wrongdoings, out of still remnants of his personality.
Yeah.
His greed, his aversion, his delusion.
Yeah.
But he's unable to take it personally on that fundamental level, to not disclose it or not see it as that was a wrongdoing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So if you recognise you've done something wrong, and then you have this,
then start looking for excuses.
You don't
start covering up, start making it opaque and non-transparent.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
That needs to be looked at. Yeah.
So it's impossible for a person with the right view, lay person or a monk, doesn't matter, to become opaque again and lie to himself about his own motives or doings or actions.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
So there's the simile there. He says, just because just as a little young boy, a baby, having stepped on burning coal with his hand or foot, quickly moves back in just this way, because this is the nature of an individual who has attained right view. Even though he falls into offence, he quickly discloses, indicates, sort of immediately. That's the first reaction. There's nothing getting in the way of him.
Covering it up.
Yeah. So for him, this is the fourth knowledge. This fourth knowledge is attained, which is noble, beyond the world, not shared by Patujanas. Furthermore, bhikkhus, a noble disciple reflects thus: just as an individual who's attained the right view is endowed with a nature, am I endowed with such a nature? So it's the same thing. Do I have this nature? He says, bhikkhus, this is the nature of an individual who has attained the right view. Even though he has become active in terms of various duties with his companions in the holy life, there's still a keen regard for training in the higher virtue, for training in the higher mind, for training in the higher understanding. Bhikkhus, just as a cow eats the grass with her young calf, and she watches over her young calf, in just this way, bhikkhus, this is the nature of an individual who's attained the right view. Even though he has become active in terms of various duties, he doesn't give up the training.
He doesn't lose the context, despite the other more mundane things he might have to do. That's what it means. So he cannot forget the context of the right view and the implicit development in it, and so on, and the value. It cannot be ignored. So even like back in the suttas where lay people became sotapannas and then kind of chose to continue living their household life, that's something they cannot forget.
Yeah.
Which means throughout their life they always start, but basically after the right view they would have felt at least a degree of discrepancy between the value of the right view and development and what they're doing.
It's also an obstacle, isn't it? It says that.
It's an obstacle in that in Udana.
The Buddha says, no, it's in the, I don't know, in the
I think in Udana says the noble disciple will sort of not progress because fondness for work, talk and sleep.
It's in the Anguttara Nikaya, maybe in the
Dhamma
as well,
maybe I'm wrong. Doesn't matter. The point is,
work, will an obstacle for a noble disciple.
Yeah, and why? Like in other suttas, like you might wonder, well, how would somebody who's Sotapanna not pursue further? Because you don't feel like you have to. Other people might be some people might be satisfied with that. The fact that you cannot suffer amid suffering, and everything else is literally 7 grains of sand left. And you know that there are mountains of Himalayas. That's how much you've done already. So it's like, oh, this is nothing, and it's nothing from that point of view. But the Buddha said even that little is still something, so that's why you should do it.
Yeah.
But some monks or lay people would have just been content with that, and which would have allowed them to live the life which cannot be aligned with the right view. Lay life cannot be aligned with the right view. So if you chose to stay a layman, or as a bhikkhu, sometimes you chose to basically not really practice, that's against the right view, and
So
you have to
live
live
like
that
a
discrepancy.
Live like a layman in clothes.
Yeah, you would
In
feel that
robes.
discrepancy, and sooner or later you would have to you would turn away from it.
Yeah. And so that's what so that's what you're saying here is, so even if you're doing that as a noble disciple, you can't forget.
You
the
cannot,
broader
and that's
context.
what it's meant, like the right view inclines towards Nibbana,
Yeah,
slopes
right.
towards it. That's its natural direction, and that's now you establish that, and you cannot not incline that way.
Mhm.
And it says, at most, 7 lifetimes, at most, you will have to go
Yeah.
in Nibbana by the end of it.
And this is another.
And that's the only reason, by the way, why Sotapanna would sometimes take 7 lifetimes.
because they're not
Because they're not practicing. Yeah. So even with the utmost non-practice, within 7 lifetimes you would have to basically drain any interest towards anything that's discrepant with the right view. That's not compatible.
Mm.
You would abandon it.
But even if you're not practicing and you're not behaving, you're behaving in a way that's sort of contradicting your understanding. You still understand. You still have this knowledge. You still.
Oh yeah, that's you cannot
you
lose that.
reflect.
Yeah.
You go. This
Because,
is not the right.
and you know why? Because it's not given to you like a random special experience
Yeah.
that happened and you don't know how or why.
Yeah.
It's because you understood the nature of anything that arises for you.
Yes.
Hence, whatever has the nature of arising, that's why that nature is impermanent.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
always the inside of Sotapanna
Yeah.
in the suttas.
Yeah. What
Not when this special thing arose for me, I became
this
a Sotapanna.
happens.
No.
Yeah.
It's understanding that whatever is of a nature to manifest, that's why it cannot be mine, because it has manifested.
Like in this case, it began with the nature of the mind, recognizing the nature of the mind.
Yeah, and that understanding of that manifestation is on the level of the mind, yeah, not on the level of the content.
Furthermore, a noble disciple reflects thus. I just quite like this. It's just these, it's about these things that the noble disciple thinks about. Just as an individual who's attained the right view is endowed with strength, am I endowed with such strength? And in what way, bhikkhus, is an individual who's attained the right view endowed with such strength? Bhikkhus, this is the strength of an individual who's attained the right view. Whatever has been made known by the Tathagata in this Dharma and discipline, while it's being taught, having heeded the meaning, having attended, having collected together with the whole mind, lending an ear, he listens to the Dhamma. He understands in this way, just as an individual has attained. That's it. He listens to the Dhamma. He doesn't like...
Well, he cannot. It doesn't take effort
Uh-huh.
for him to listen to the Dhamma,
Mm.
because his experience now has been aligned with the universal principle of the Dhamma
Yeah.
through his understanding. So whenever he comes across the Dhamma, it's immediately that strength is there, that direct connection, and even that is not personal.
Yeah.
Oh, let me make the effort and think about the Dhamma. No,
Yeah.
because when he listens to the Dhamma, it's basically just he gets reminded of what's already within his experience seen.
And then, again, the next one's similar. Just as an individual who has attained the right view is endowed with strength, am I endowed with such strength? What's this strength? This strength of an individual who has attained right view is this: whatever has been made known by the Tathagata in this Dharma and discipline, while it's being taught, he... so I've translated this as he gets an experience of the meaning. He gets an experience of the
Yeah,
Dhamma.
yeah, that's
He
exactly what I
attains
said
joy
now. Yeah.
associated with the Dhamma.
When it's being said, even if he doesn't think about the Dhamma,
Yeah.
what's being heard
Yes.
is what he experiences as this direct description of what he is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's also why a Sotapanna will be able to tell whether somebody has the right view or not, or whether somebody talks, what somebody said is aligned with the right view or not, even if it's not coming from the Buddha.
Yeah.
If somebody makes a statement, he will be able to tell whether that statement is accurate or not,
Yeah.
whether it's true or false,
Based on the experience.
based on the direct experience of the meaning of that statement.
The Pali there is Attavada and Dhammavada, Attaveda and Dhammaveda, and usually it's translated as kind of some religious joy.
Right.
in the.
Yeah.
in
No, it's
the
more like a
Dhamma.
universal joy.
Yeah, I mean it might be joy, but it.
You know,
but
like when you understood something for yourself, and then you see it in the world understood by others.
Okay, yeah.
That already provides you with joy, even on a mundane level. Let alone on a level of freedom from suffering.
Right.
And somebody talks about freedom from suffering, you cannot not be joyous about it. Because it's universal, it's beyond you in that sense. It cannot be taken personally. Which is why even the joy you get from it, it's beyond your personality.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's a joy that's not to be feared and is to be cultivated.
Nothing wrong with that joy, yeah. Like people experience joy when they find somebody else sharing their central preference. Like same taste in music or whatever, they get that, wow. Imagine
that band's great, isn't
exactly.
it?
Imagine how much more when you find somebody also talking about freedom from suffering, exactly how it is.
Yes.
But that's a joy you can't crave for. Because craving requires obsession, requires personality, requires basically lack of that sight of your own mind.
Endowed in this way, that's it. Endowed in this way with the 7 factors, the nature of a noble disciple has been properly considered for the realization of the fruit of stream entry. Bhikkhus endowed in this way with 7 factors, a noble disciple is endowed with the fruit of stream entry. It seems to me it's like it's a description of the kind of authentic questioning that a Sotapanna.
Yeah, but it all starts with that thorough, transparent, wisely considered sense restraint. So, as I said, it doesn't matter if you wear robes or not. In order to discern the obsessed mind as obsessed mind, you need to discern what mind is. You need to be able to withstand the content of experience that has manifested for you, that is pulling you, pushing you, distracting you. Not through denying the content, but through restraining the loss of perspective through your action. Because when you choose to act out of the content, you forsake the perspective towards the content. So the only reason why a lay person is less likely to become a Sotapanna today is because they would need to endure more pain because of the environment they're in. You don't endure the pain of sense restraint because of the sense restraint. You endure the pain because of the bombardment of that which you are restrained against. And today's lay environment is far more proliferated with sensuality. So if sense restraint is impossible, it's only because they can't bear enough pain. But the only way to learn how to bear pain is to start bearing the pain. And not give in.
Training.
So if it's too much, well, you have an option. Either forsake the value of sense restraint, in which case you've forsaken the value of the right view. So then if you say you're practicing the Dhamma, you're not. Doesn't matter what you say. Or you could then maybe change the environment. If you can't become a monk or a nun to the point that you can really change the environment that will suit and enable you at least to bear some pain of that sense restraint without being overwhelmed by it, well then find something in between. At least withdraw yourself to some extent, and then you'll see how much you can bear. You don't know how much you can bear if you never try to bear it. Which means you're still acting out of obsessions. Towards, against, both towards and against, confusion, obsession of doubt, all of that. But if you say a person is able to withstand the sense restraint, to then reflect upon like motivation behind your thoughts, speech and actions, because when in the previous talk we mentioned sense restraint is not just precepts. Precepts are clear. This is what you don't do. But now sense restraint comes within that. Do I need to look at this? Not for the sake of saying no to everything. No, I will not look, I will not sit, I will not talk. No, it's just wanting to know why. Where is this rooted at? Is it rooted in obsession?
Exactly.
Like, do I feel pressured to act towards this? It's already a form of obsession.
What's the nature of the mind?
What by discerning that obsession is the underlying cause for your action, you will then learn how to not act when you're not obsessed.
And
how to not act
when you are obsessed.
When obsessed, exactly.
And when you're not obsessed,
how to act.
It doesn't matter.
Then you can act freely.
Then it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But that comfort of knowing it doesn't matter requires you understand.
So
what
through
a
learning
mindset
about obsession as an
Yeah.
underlying motivation, you get to discern the signs of your mind.
Yeah.
So you want to become a Sotapanna, virtue is necessary, sense restraint in regard to motivation of your action is necessary, enduring the obsession is necessary.
enduring the obsession and developing strength, like in this.
That it forces you into strength.
Yeah, like, am I strong enough? Do I have the strength of somebody who is
Exactly.
a Sotapanna?
Yeah.
If not, then I have to develop my strength.
And you endure obsession by not acting towards what obsesses you, not
Yeah.
giving into the content.
Yeah. Just enduring the
Yeah.
discomfort.
And that can also be a reflection itself. Spend your entire day thinking or keeping a corner of your eye at your mind to see whether you're acting out of obsession or not.
Yeah.
That's it, that's all. Oh, I'm sitting here talking, am I obsessed with this? As in, do I feel pressure on account of this?
Yeah.
Do I feel I need to act or avoid or... No, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But then it might change. Now I feel like I must say all these things. Oh, so now you're obsessed.
Yeah.
So don't act out of obsession. That's all you need to do. It's not about, oh, I will say this, I will not say... No, just don't act out of obsession. If you don't do that, whatever you say will not be wrong.
Isn't that another way of describing the practice of sense restraint?
Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it's like another way of thinking about it. Yeah, not acting. Just recognise when obsession is present.
Yeah.
I'm not going to act out of that.
That's it. Obsession, pressure,
Yeah.
contact.